Chapter 41, Finding Private Danny. It was just entering the spring of 1995, and by now we were season regulars to Derby and, more importantly, the Pink Coconuts. We were a three-man army: Danny, Vince and myself. Of course, I was the driver. And once again, Danny had made arrangements to see Elaine. Vince was seeing a fine black lady by the name of Ansel, but we used to call her Annie for short. And Annie's sidekick and good friend, her name was Marie, a mixed race lady. Me and Marie flirted with the odd kiss and cuddle now and again, but nothing of great significance ever took place. So once again, it was another fantastic night at the Pink Coconut. But this time round, Angel invited us to stay at her place because, of course, she wanted to spend the night with Vincent. So here was the plan. I had to drop Danny off to Elaine's place and come back for him about an hour and a half. Then I had to drive back to the Pink Coconut, pick up Vince and Ansel and Marie. And that was precisely what happened. Eventually we ended up at Ansel's place. Of course, the usual chit-chat and small talk happened, lighting of cigarettes, pouring of coffee, yada, 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 until Ansel was now heading up to her bedroom with Vince in pursuit, leaving me and Marie on the sofa downstairs. Now, of course, being a red-blooded male, you're damn right I wanted to get into Marie's pants. Now, Marie, she didn't have the chunky, voluptuous curves that I normally go for. She was slimmer than my sort of ideal. I estimated her dress size around a comfortable size 12. She had some nice legs on her though. Ooh, very, very elegant long legs. She kind of reminded me of Faith Evans, but she was like longer in the face. And her being biracial or mixed race, she had naturally long hair. Now with some men, they're motivated by their impulse and they either ignore the experience or they have a lack of experience. While other men, despite their impulse, they're motivated by their experience. And by then I was very experienced in the dating battlefield. I was well versed in the art. You could call me a metaphorical Jedi Knight. And with my experience, and I could also sense that it wasn't going to happen with me and Marie. Even though we lay there with each other on the sofa with my arms wrapped around her, I could tell that that was the wrong place to try and get into her pants. I felt that she was not comfortable with being naked in a friend's house and getting busy with me downstairs. And what also gave it away was the way she held my hand. Even though I had my arms wrapped around her, she was leaning on my chest in a sideward spoon. We were spooning on the sofa. She had a bit of a semi-firm grip on my arm around her waist, as to say, don't be thinking of moving your hands anywhere else. Your hands is going to stay right here. So I thought, well, ain't no big deal. It's not going to kill me not to get laid on that particular night. Because sooner or later, I'm going to get laid anyway, whether it be with Marie or someone else. So one night of not getting laid is not going to kill me. We started chuckling to the sound that was going on above us. Well, at least somebody was having a good time. Now, while I was lying there with Marie, something seemed kind of strange because I felt totally comfortable with my arm round her in a way that I could just stay there all night. But I only had that feeling when I was in love. If you remember back in chapter 35, my first love with Joji, I could sleep with her all night in the bed, more or less in one position with my arm wrapped around her comfortably. But I wasn't in love with Marie, but it felt similar to Zoji, which seemed kind of odd to me because, of course, since Zoji, I had slept with a few women after that, and I didn't get that sense that I could comfortably lie there with my arm wrapped around them in one position for more or less the whole night. But I felt this way with Marie. But I knew I wasn't in love with her. Of course not, because I just wasn't. So I lay there feeling quite content and at peace and very comfortable. And obviously I must have closed my eyes and just drifted off. Then what seemed like 5 minutes, I slowly opened my eyes. I remember looking at the curtains, thinking to myself, wow, that's a strange light coming through that tiny crack between the curtains. Wow, what's making that odd light? Never seen a light like that before in the night time. What could be making that light? Now you got to remember, my mind is still half asleep while I'm looking at this tiny light coming through the crack of the curtains. I'm still in sort of sleep mode. And that's when it slowly dawned on me. I thought, that's daylight. That's daylight! I was meant to pick up Daniel about an hour and a half later. My God, it's been about 3 hours. I jumped up and off Marie so fast, it was like as though a grizzly bear had roared behind me while sleeping at a campfire. She woke up pretty startled, and all I said to her, I need to go and get Danny, and I just ran out the house. I jumped into Danny's Ford Fiesta and I was bombing it back to the pink coconuts. Now, the reason why I was bombing it back to the pink coconuts, because I was aware of the fact that Elaine had to sneak Daniel in to her parents' house. Plus, she had to go to work in the morning. So I thought, well, she obviously had to kick him out. Pulled up to the pink coconuts. No Danny. So I thought, okay, where would you go at this time in the morning? So I drove down to the train station. I looked at the platforms. No Danny. I drove to the bus station. Looked through all the bus stops, all the shelters and everything. No Danny. I think, oh, fuck. What the hell can I do? Now, I don't know what time it was in the morning, but I know it was very early in the morning. Around that time of the year, just coming up for spring, it was probably around 5:30 in the morning, something around that sort of time. So when I pulled up at Elaine's place, I felt a sigh of relief because I could see the light was on behind the drawn curtains in the front room downstairs. So I thought, with it being so early in the morning, he's probably down there with her. And I thought to myself, well, the last thing I'm going to do is knock on the door knocker to alert the parents that I'm at the door. I don't want to blow Danny's cover. So what I'll do, I'll take a coin out of my pocket and I'll just gently tap it on the window. When the curtains drew back, what I saw in front of me gave me that same shocked and oh my God feeling, as though, you know, when you're on a roller coaster and you're slowly creeping up to the very highest point, you know, the point just before it rolls over that highest point and you could see how high up you are and you know you're going to get some serious G-force. That moment of fear, that moment of horror, that was exactly what I experienced when I saw the curtains drew open and I saw two people standing in front of me that I've never seen before in my life. It was clearly her parents, and the saying, I wanted the ground to open up and swallow me up, just wasn't even the best description. I wanted to die. The curtains drew back. And obviously the father was now on the way to the front door. That had to be the longest 3 seconds I've ever waited in my entire life. I felt like a murderer in court about to get his sentence. So I could hear the door opening. I thought, oh God, oh God, oh God, how am I going to get out of this one? When he opened the door, he had a typical middle-aged dad look. You know, the big bald patch on the top of the head and the hair around the back and the sides. He had that cardigan tank top with a shirt tucked into his trousers. And he was quite short. Well, it wasn't really short, but he was shorter than me. I'm 5'9", and he had a bit of a stocky build. So, you know, he had glasses, thick black glasses. And he looked at me with a firm like, what the fuck do you want? I put on my best telephone voice. I said, I'm so sorry to disturb you so early in the morning, but unfortunately we can't locate our friend, and he was last seen with your daughter. And before I could even say another word, he said, yeah, he's not here. He's not here. And then before I could even say another word, all I could see was the back of his head walking back into his house, and the door slammed, bam. When that door closed, I felt like as though my body had just been rinsed of all the liquid, like as though I was a sponge and a giant just came and just rinsed me. I went back to the car with my tail between my legs and drove back to Anzel's place. And then obviously I told Marie what happened. I said, I couldn't find Danny. I went to the bus station. I went to the train station, went back to Pink Coconuts. I don't know where he is. She's obviously kicked him out because, she needed to go to work in the morning. So I don't know where the hell he is. Now, remember a few chapters back in the Awkward Moment chapter when I talked about the experience of meeting the different mixed race or biracial people in my lifetime, that there's 3 types. Biracial mix of black and white, where type 1 rejects the black side and just favors only the white side. Type 2, that rejects the white side and favors only the black side. And type 3, that's at ease with both sides of their culture or race. They have no problems. They're a human being first and everything else afterwards. So Marie, she would fall into camp 2, where she favored more the black side of her family. And she spoke with a lot of glee in her voice when I told her that, obviously Danny is being kicked out of the house and I can't find him. She said, oh, those white girls are terrible. Fancy kicking him out so early in the morning. Oh, God. Now, I knew Marie was slightly angling that sentence towards me as well, because one thing I tell you about the black women, definitely here in the UK, they're not stupid. They know when a brother has been messing with women outside of his race. We give off certain traits, there's certain ways about us, and they just pick up. And I knew she knew that I've had some past flavors with some white women, etc., etc. So I knew that a statement was also aimed at me. Now, despite the fact I was panicking like fuck, I had no choice but to wait till Vincent got up. So I settled back down and got what I would call some kind of sleep until he arose. Now, clearly I didn't sleep that well because I was in panic mode, but I could hear Vince moving around upstairs. So I shouted out, Vince, I need you downstairs. He came downstairs and I laid out the emergency. And his response, we need to go back to Elaine's place. She obviously took him to work. I said to Vince, oh man, I can't go back there. He goes, well, we got no choice. We can't search a whole city. We got to narrow it down. We need to contact Elaine. So we pulled up to Elaine's place. Now, oddly, though it was drizzly and raining first thing in the morning, the sun had come out by now. By now, it was a nice, bright, sunny morning. So Vince said to me, oh, go and knock on the door. I said, man, I can't go back. He goes, well, you said, I can't go there. You've been there before. They've seen you already. So you're the man. I thought, Vince, man, I can't face him again. He goes, well, you have to. I thought, for fuck's sake. So I reluctantly got out the car and started heading towards Elaine's front door. It felt as though I was walking the Green Mile. Every step I was taking towards her door, each step closer, was more feeling of dread. So when I got up to her front door and I was watching my hand raise up towards the door knocker, it was like as though I was watching my hand move in slow motion. And believe me, I felt every single underneath my fingers. He opened the door. He looked at me, but this time round, he stepped out of the door. Now, let me give you a description of the street that she lived on. Now, anyone who's familiar with the UK and familiar with the TV program Coronation Street, it was a street just like that. Up in Derby, they got these houses that don't have front gardens. The front door opens straight onto the pavement. So as I said, he opened the door and he slightly closed the door behind him and he stepped onto the pavement. And I thought, oh, is he angling to punch me in the face now? So now I'm starting to go into defense mode. So I'm speaking to him very politely, but at the same time, no, I'm ready to defend myself if need be. So I said to him, I'm so sorry to disturb you. I really am, but I'm left with no choice. I really need to locate and before I even got to the end of the word locate, I heard a strange noise. So clearly I stopped what I was saying and I looked to my left to see where this noise was coming from. So then I heard the noise again, but it was coming from slightly above. So I looked up towards my left-hand side at a 45-degree angle. And to my shock, I could see Elaine's head sticking out the window saying, "He's here." I immediately looked back at her father. And once again, all I could see was the back of his head getting smaller as he was walking back into his house and the door slammed. Now I went back to the car and I sat there with Vince and I told Vince what happened. We were both sat there poised on Elaine's front door, watching the place like as though we were undercover police officers watching a terrorist cell or something, or maybe waiting for some kind of drug raid to take place. We were seriously expecting Daniel to be either running out of the place or coming out of her place in a sort of panic hurry mode. So we were like poised. I had my hand on the key to turn the engine on so I could pull up to the place and open the door so he could jump in quickly. But instead, Daniel casually came out the house. He even had the audacity to get a last kiss for the road on her doorstep. I thought, like as though he was a soldier going off to war, saying goodbye to his wife for possibly the last time. I'm thinking, well, how much more laid back could he be with a situation like that? When I told Daniel the hell I went through looking for him, his response was, oh, I feel so honored. I feel so good that you went through so much trouble looking for me. Around a couple of weeks or so later, him and Elaine arranged to meet up, but this time Danny went up to Derby to specifically spend time with her. And part of that visit was meeting her parents. And Danny told me of that experience of meeting her dad now. So when he was in the house, he stretched his hand out to shake her father's hand. And the father said, no, I'm not going to shake your hand. I'm not going to shake your hand. He said, you made me look a fool. You was in my house and I didn't know who was in the house. Now, I would say on a scale of 1 to 10 in having a awkward or bad experience in meeting someone's parents, Danny more or less had probably a 1.5. Because let's face it, it could have gone a hell of a lot worse. Back in 1995, it wouldn't really be unusual to come across a racist middle-aged white man. And even if you take racism out of the equation, let's say Danny was white, it could have still ended up badly. Well, the adventures of the days of pink coconuts was far from over, as you will see in the next chapter.